welcome to Cube Speed. My name's Richard, and in this episode we're going to be reviewing and installing our short shifter, which is to suit the Ford Falcon 5-speed in a V8 or 6-cylinder Falcon, and it suits every 5-speed Falcon or Falcon Ute except for the BA and BF. We have a separate shifter for that one. So with our shifter, it shortens up your shifter throw by about 35%, which is a huge improvement over stock, but more than that, also makes your shifting feel more direct and more precise as well. So what we mean by that is with your factory shifter, you might know it can feel a bit indirect and a bit doughy, and it can be a bit difficult to select gears sometimes, or sometimes you might select the wrong gear. So our shifter does away with all of that and improves all of those things. So a couple other things to note with our shifter is one is like the shifter housing is made out of a billet aluminium. The shifter shaft is a hardened steel. It has heavy duty pivot bushings which have been pre-installed. It also has these positive shift stops as well, which is to help prevent overshifting and potential gearbox damage. And it also comes with these replaceable centering springs as well, so a lot for super sharp second or third shifts, and also helps with locating all gears better as well. So next we're just going to move on to showing you what's in the box when you receive your Cube Speed shifter, and then we're going to look at the installation. So we're just going to start by showing you what you receive in your kit here from Cube Speed. So firstly, you receive your short shifter here, of course. You receive these two bolts, which are positive shift stop bolts. You also receive these two heavy duty springs, so we'll show you a little bit more about those later. The rest of the shifter lever and the 4 bolts to hold the shifter lever together. The 4 hold down bolts to hold the shifter to your gearbox. And also in this installation we're going to be installing one of our super sexy Cube Speed billet aluminium gear knobs, and also we're going to be installing a bronze shifter to gearbox bush as well. So both the bush and the gear knob are separate, they're not included in the kit, but we just want to show you how they work as well. Okay, so we're just going to move on with the installation. So we've got our old T5 gearbox here, which is looking a little bit worse for wear. It's been hanging around the place for a bit. What we're going to do is we're just going to remove this factory shifter. To do that, you've just got these 4 hold down bolts which hold the shifter down onto the gearbox. It's going to be quite easy for us to take this off, but when your gearbox is in the car, a trick can be is to get your car up on ramps, drop the back of the gearbox down about 1 inch or so on the cross member, so not taking it out but just dropping it down a little bit, and then you've got a little bit more room between the trans tunnel and the gearbox just to be able to access these bolts here. So we're just going to quickly rip this off, and then we'll move on with the install. Okay, and then your old shifter just comes off quite easily. We should have also said just make sure your car's in neutral just before you start with this process as well, just makes it a bit easier. So now we're just going to move in a bit closer, and I'm just going to show you what's going on with the bush in here inside this gearbox. So we just wanted to show you a bit more of a close-up as to what's going on with this gearbox here. So this section here that you can see is what we call the offset lever. So the offset lever in this section here is meant to have a plastic bush that's been installed by the factory. So these plastic bushes are quite often broken and fallen apart, and often you find bits of it in the bottom of the gearbox here. In this case, the bush is missing altogether, so someone's probably pulled it out at some stage, probably because it was broken. So we do a bronze replacement bush for the plastic bush, and we kind of recommend that you replace that at the same time, just while you've got your car apart. The bronze bush has got a lot less distortion than what the plastic bush has, so it makes your shifting feel a lot more accurate. It's also going to last a lot longer as well. So it installs really easy, it just slips straight in there like that into your offset lever. While we're in here as well also, just when installing the new shifter, you just need to put a small bead of like gasket sealant just on this flange here, just to prevent any leaks. So now we're going to pan back a bit, and we'll just move on with the rest of the install. Okay, so now we're just going to move on with the installation a bit more here. So first thing we're going to do is just install these studs, like in each corner here, these hold down studs. So you don't actually have to use these, you can just use the factory hold down bolts. but if you have got room between your gearbox and your trans tunnel, these things can make life like a little bit easier. So we'll just speed through, just winding these in. Okay, so now we're just going to drop the shifter on. You can just put like a small amount of like bearing grease just on the end of the shifter shaft there, especially if you're installing a new bush in your gearbox. So we'll just slot that on like that, and then we'll just put on the washers and the nuts. So again, we'll just speed through this bit as well. Yeah, so with the bolts, you just want to do them down like in a crisscross pattern, just like you're doing up the wheel nuts on your wheels, just to make sure it's evenly torqued. It doesn't need to be mega tight, just firm. Okay, so now we can just install the rest of the shifter lever. So you might note there's 3 holes in the shaft on the shifter mechanism here, so it gives you 2 different positions. So you can either have the shifter a bit lower on the bottom 2 bolts or a bit higher on the top 2. So we're just going to screw that on. So if you just set them all in there loosely first. Okay, so we'll just torque down those bolts. Okay, wow, huge difference. That's so much better. So the next thing I'm going to do is just have a look at how to adjust your shifter stops. We're just going to move the camera in a bit closer for that one. Okay, so next we're just going to look at installing the positive shift stops. So the positive shift stops are about helping preventing overshifting, which could happen if you're shifting really aggressively. In day-to-day driving it's not going to happen, but if you're shifting really aggressively it might, and the positive shift stops can help prevent damage to your gearbox. So we're just going to start just by installing the grub screws. So the grub screws are these extra large ones. You just want to install those with the Allen head facing towards the outside. And the next thing we'll do is we'll just put the car into 3rd gear and press really hard on the shifter lever, wind the grub screw in until it just touches the shifter lever, and then back it off a little bit. And then pull the trans back into neutral and put the lock nut on the grub screw and do it up really tight. So we'll do the same thing with 4th gear as well. So pushing really hard on the shifter lever, wind the grub screw in until it just touches, back it off a tiny little bit, and then put on your lock nut, do it up really tight. So in day-to-day driving, the shifter lever should never actually touch the shift stops. It should only ever happen if you're shifting really aggressively. So once you've done that, you just need to check all the gears, so 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th and reverse, and just make sure on all gears that the shifter lever doesn't quite touch the positive shift stops. We should also say at this stage as well to use like Loctite or something similar on these on the shifter stops, also on the hold down bolts and the bolts on the shifter lever here as well. So Loctite or something similar to that. So next we're just going to move on to the centering springs. So next we're just going to have a look at the centering springs. So the centering springs are about returning the shifter lever to the 3rd, 4th position when the car's in the neutral gate. So what we mean by that is if you've got the shifter lever over to one side in the neutral gate and you let go of it, it automatically springs back to the 3rd, 4th position. So what that does is it helps you find the gears much more easily. And so with those springs as well, so the springs are actually replaceable as well. So the springs that come standard in the shifter are just a standard weight spring, and they work well for most applications. But you also do get these heavy duty springs in the kit as well. I kind of prefer the heavy duty spring. I just feel it pulls the shifter lever over to the 3rd, 4th gate much more nicely. So we can just show you how to replace those. It's quite easily how to change them over. So you start just by undoing the grub screws here, and then underneath the grub screw you can see the centering spring. So the centering spring, you can just hook it out with a screwdriver like that, and then underneath the screwdriver is underneath the spring is a spring follower, so which is this little thing here. So all you need to do is get your heavy duty spring and put that on the spring follower, so just like so, and then put it back in the housing, put your grub screw back in, and when you're tightening your grub screw up, you just want to have it so it's pretty much only just putting a little bit of pressure on the spring. If you tighten it up too much, you'll actually make the spring bind and you won't be able to shift the lever at all. So we'll just quickly speed through replacing the other one. Okay, so again, just do up the grub screw. So it's just putting a little bit of pressure on that spring. So with these grub screws, you really do need to use some Loctite or some kind of thread adhesive on those as well, just to stop the adjustment changing. So once you've done that, you can just check it out, and now it springs back to the neutral gate a lot more aggressively. Some people don't like it, but it's kind of what I prefer. Okay, so that completes our installation. So we've got our brand new Cube Speed T5 short shifter installed on our gearbox. So we'll just give it a bit of a test out here. Wow, testing out that 2nd and 3rd shift, just goes straight in there. All the gears select like absolutely beautifully. So now all you have to do after that is just put all your car back together again, take it out for a test drive, shift some gears and have some fun, and we'll catch you again next time. Thanks for watching.